What's up guys, Rabbit from Grimnir Tactical here. In this video, we're going to cover a very comprehensive list of the most commonly asked questions from people looking to come to our event specifically. So this isn't for every milsim that's out there. This is specifically for Grimnir Tactical events. So let's jump right into it and cover everything from pre-planning and buying tickets all the way to the execution of the event itself. So just like any other event, it all starts with buying a ticket to the event. And now we know that airsofters don't really like to read, so we've done a really good job of creating visual cinematic ways of learning about the story and narrative, as well as the rule set video. So if you haven't seen those yet and you're thinking about coming to an event or have already bought your ticket, definitely check those out, and hopefully you guys enjoy them. Let us know in the comments what you think of them. But we can't stress it enough. There's a lot that needs to be paid attention to in regards to what we have written out. Yes, it's a little bit of reading, but there's proper expectations that need to be set, not only by us as the producers, but met for anybody that's going to be a customer. As a player, it's important to know what you should expect when coming to our events. With the narrative video, this is a big thing that comes up, is people ask us all the time about the narrative specifically. Really the big thing is know the story. You know, we have a very, very unique and dynamic and completely original story that we have actually written for you. And we hope that you can obviously create a character and be a part of something that's a little bit more of an escape from reality type of situation. We're in some pretty difficult times right now, so hopefully the Soul Wars and the narrative that we have created is something that you can take and really just kind of have fun with. So that's the big thing for us, is know the story, create a character that's going to be participating in our story so that you guys can be a part of something really cool during a pretty challenging time that we're facing. When it comes to buying tickets, different events will be available. So for Grimnir Tactical, we are not locked into 40-hour events. Our first event that we had, Radio Silence, back in September of 2020, that event was a 40-hour continuous event. But we're not locked into that 40-hour format. The story we're creating and living in for the Soul Wars event series is dynamic. So there are some things that may have to be told in the story that don't necessarily need 40 hours. So a real big thing that you need to pay attention to before you buy your tickets is knowing in the product description before you press buy is how long the event is going to be. So for example, 40-hour event for Radio Silence on episode 1, episode 2 being Captivus is a 30-hour event. Now players will be able to arrive on Friday, pre-check, we're gonna have 1 versus 1 brackets, things like that. It's really just a time to hang out, get to know people, and kind of be a part of a community, a little bit separated from the LARPing that goes on in the immersive side of our events. So we're really looking forward to that specifically. But there's also going to be 24-hour events sometimes, and maybe even single-day events, just to show a smaller battle or a smaller chapter in the Soul Wars story that we're telling. So before you buy, please read the event description so you know exactly what you're buying. That's definitely important for not only us, but for you guys, so you obviously can plan accordingly. Another common question is, how old do you have to be to attend the events? There's a lot of liability that goes into airsoft, insurance, and blah, 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 but the general rule of thumb for age restrictions is 13 to 15 years old. You need to have a legal guardian actually participating in the event and signing a waiver for a minor. So that's the first thing. 13 to 15, you need to have somebody present playing in the event. 16 to 17 years old, considering you still are minors, you can come, you just have to have a legal guardian sign a minor consent form, which we will keep on file. And if you're 18, come on in, you're all big boys, big girls, you guys can figure it out for yourself. So these are really strict guidelines, and there's a reason that they're there, and unfortunately we can't make any exceptions. We want everybody to be able to enjoy our events, but the most important thing is that people are smart and safe, and we want to ensure that every single participant is going to have the best experience possible. Now let's dive into actually purchasing the tickets for the event. So we know in the moment, gathering money from your group that's going to be attending seems like the easiest thing to do. but it's actually not the most efficient way to do it, and let me explain why. For a couple of reasons. One, rostering. When each player registers individually, it's a lot easier to roster on our end based off of the ticket holder's name. That way it ensures everybody is placed in the proper units with the correct people, and it's just a much cleaner way of going around things, and it cuts out a lot of conversation between the customers and the producers. The second biggest thing is actually going to be every player that registers individually is going to get a registration number. They're going to get a confirmation email, which is going to give them direct links to faction pages on Facebook. Those faction pages do ask for an order number, and they are, kind of specified to one person. So we do look at those order numbers when they come in, match it up to the individual, but it's way easier if you just have a completely unique registration number so that you can get it in the faction page. It makes it way faster. We don't have to double and triple check things. So in a way, it's making it a little bit easier for us, but it's going to get you into the faction pages way faster. Number 3, when you individually purchase, one person doesn't have to be burdened by being the middleman anymore. So they don't have to send waivers, all the communications via email to their 5, 10, 15 other teammates. So it does make it easier if everybody that registers gets their individual waiver sent to them, and whatever type of communication we're trying to push out before the event. And it keeps people just in the same communication pipeline. Like, it allows people for every faction to get the information they need when they're seeking it. The most important thing is we want you guys to be in our email system. Not to spam you with stuff, but just so you're obviously the first to know when things are happening, and you can be a part of the Grimnir Tactical family so we can keep building this amazing community. So that's something we really want to see, is not just, one person that has 30 other group member names, but necessarily just 15 people that are completely individuals that really have complete access to everything Grimnir Tactical, because if you come to the event and you enjoy the event, which we know you will, you're gonna hopefully want to continue to be a part of it, be a part of the story, keep building the narrative. So purchasing tickets, the most simple, dumb way to put it, try to buy them individually. It's easier, it's cleaner, and it's definitely more organized for both us and for you guys. So let's piggyback off that. You've bought your tickets individually. Let's talk about event information specifically. Once you've purchased your ticket, you're in your faction pages, you've started mingling and communicating with people, do yourself a favor and learn the narrative. Learn the story of Soul Wars, get up to date. We have dumped a ton of time and effort into making, once again, really cinematic things for you guys to enjoy, really cinematic experiences, and we love to know you all get invested in it. We have so many people that are always, DMing us, sending us really cool ideas and giving us great information and kind of sharing what their character is going to be, and that just makes it so much better, and it shows us that obviously we're doing something right, so we really do love that. We love to know that people get invested in the narrative that we've created for you, and the best way to do it is watch the narrative video, which I'll have here in the video as well. Watch the trailers leading up to episode 1, and watch the trailers leading up to episode 2, and so on and so forth as we continue to progress through the events. Craft your character. A big question that we get asked all the time is, who can I play as, whatever. Obviously you have a specific faction that you're going to be in and you're going to register for, but those all have individual identities. So get creative. Make your character, make who you're gonna be, and if you have any questions or you think it's leaning a certain way and you don't know if it's okay, just ask us if your bio for your character is something that we would approve, and typically we're gonna approve it. So just hit us up, let us know. We love to hear the creative side of things coming from the players as well. Also, when you watch the narrative, you learn about what you're fighting for. You learn about your faction specifically and who they are and why they're in the situation that they're in. So you get to know the key characters as well, who's going to be playing what. Obviously the staff is embedded with you guys. So when you have the staff embedded with you, you get to learn their personalities and the characters that they're playing. And that's something we'll touch on later on too, more in the spirit of the game side of things. When it comes down to very specific event information, like maps, schedules, rosters, etc., those will come with plenty of time to spare. So I know people are always asking about updated maps and things like that. We're always working on them. We're changing them as they have to be changed, and we're really kind of tweaking them, but it's never going to be last minute. We're not those kinds of people. So just be patient, keep an eye on your faction page, our Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube, and you're always going to get, different notifications. So turn on your post notifications so that you can get every single piece of information as soon as it's released. One thing that we really want to cover, it's not a commonly asked question, but it's something that I do want to touch on, is our drug and alcohol policy. The answer to that is 0. Before, during, or after the event, absolutely 0 alcohol will be tolerated, 0 drugs will be tolerated. You will be asked to leave the premise and you will be banned. You'll get hit with the ban hammer and you will never be allowed at a Grimnir Tactical Event ever again. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. You'll have way more fun if you just do it sober. Next up, let's talk about event preparation. In this section, we're going to cover pretty much all the items that come from after you've purchased your tickets, and we obviously just touch on some things there, but we're going to talk about everything leading up to actually stepping onto the AO for the first time. For packing, we do have a packing list that is in the rule set. You'll get it on your faction pages as well, but it's something that you can find at any point in time before you purchase a ticket, and it's a list of required and optional items that you will need to pack for the event. And once again, this is all based off of the length of the event. So once you know obviously how long the event is, you've purchased your ticket, you can obviously pack accordingly. And there's a couple of tips and tricks in here that we do want to cover because it's something that people ask us all the time in our DMs and just via email. So we'll cover quite a few things just because sometimes based off of the time of the year, where the event's going to be held, the duration of the event, these things can change. So a lot of common sense comes into this, but hopefully these tips and tricks will allow you to prepare a little bit more efficiently. So our events are immersive military simulation airsoft events. So yes, it might be a little bit set in the future, but it's still a mil-sim game. So once you step onto the AO, you are not allowed to leave unless it is an emergency or you quit. If it is an emergency, we will have staff members available to be able to escort you off the field. If it's something that may only take a little bit of time and you do have to go back to your vehicle, it's something that we do have to monitor because of liability, but we will take you to your vehicle and we will bring you back as well. When it comes down to packing properly, since you know you're not going back to your vehicle at any point in time, don't take the packing list extremely literally. Take it literally, but not completely literally, if that makes any sense. So for instance, we have in our packing list required items of primary magazines. It says 3 times. You don't have to bring exactly 3 times, but we thought, hey, maybe we should say you should at least bring 3. So we recommend bringing at least 3, carry as many as you want, but we do have weapon restrictions when it comes down to the magazine size, so only mid caps unless you're running an LMG, MMG, where you're gonna be running a drum mag. So definitely bring as many mags that you're gonna need. I personally will have 1 in my primary as well as 6 or 7 on me between my chest rig or my plate carrier as well as my belt. So bring whatever you need, but just be prepared that you're going to be carrying it the entire event, whether it's in your bag, at your fob, at your campsite, wherever you're gonna be, or on your chest or on your belt, in your backpack, doesn't matter. Bring as many as you want. A general rule of thumb for packing, and this goes for not just our specific Grimnir Tactical events, it goes for any extended continuous milsim airsoft event. General rule is to only bring what you can carry on your back or wearing with your kit to the event in one trip. So that means no coolers, grills, massive tents. You want to pack smart, pack light, and frankly, you should have what you're wearing into the event on when the event starts. So a rucksack is definitely important. Food, extra clothing, water, sleep system, and ammunition, batteries, GoPros, whatever you're bringing, everything should be able to go into your rucksack unless you're going to be wearing it, because once again, you're not going back to your car. Another item that goes back to the question of can I go back to my car is, once again, no, but part of the experience is you're kind of roughing it for a day or two, whether it's a 30 or a 40-hour event or a 24-hour event. You should be prepared to rough it, like a real military field exercise. This isn't the time to glamp. It's not a music festival. So obviously pack what you need, deal with it, rough it up, and just embrace the suck like everybody else, because that's pretty much what everybody's going to be doing. So Pack the bare minimum, pack what's going to keep you alive, keep you comfortable, keep you safe. But to touch on the grills, coolers, and things like that, the big tents, events like our Captivus event coming up in April, you don't have to leave those things behind. You can bring your grills, your coolers, your tents, your tables, whatever you want to bring, but come Saturday morning, you're leaving it in your vehicle and you're not bringing it onto the field. So Friday for Captivus is going to be, like I said earlier, the hangout time, the time to chill out and meet people, play a 1v1 bracket, lawn games. There's going to be food. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff. So that's the time where if you want to grill out, bring a grill. You can have that, but still no drugs, still no alcohol. But once the event starts, leave the big bulky things in your vehicle. Deal with your Cliff Bars, MREs, and beef jerky, because that's what you're going to be having while you're roughing it. I said it once, I'll say it again, I'll say it 1,000 times. Pack light, pack smart. Trial and error is definitely something that's important, but if you want some tips and tricks, there's another video that you can click on here, which you can obviously see how I personally pack for Milsim, because I've been to a ton of them. So things that I have gone through, and it seems like every single time you go to a Milsim event, you find something that you can improve on, so you're constantly spending some money. But this is just what I have found to work the best for me personally, so please watch that video if you have any questions, especially if this is your first Milsim event. Typically, you can ask people in your faction page as well, and they're super helpful. So thank you guys, obviously, for being so courteous and helping newcomers. But there's always something to learn, and there's always a way to pack. So watch the video, ask your faction page. But yeah, hopefully that can definitely help you as well. When it comes to packing, you need to pack with weather in mind. So the actual weather that is going to be in the territory that you're going to be playing in is going to play a crucial part in it. So we recommend spending $4 on the App Store and buying an app called Dark Sky. Dark Sky is a very good weather app that does show you some pretty accurate stuff. It's what we use before we go into any event. It should track a couple of days ahead of time so that you can obviously make sure your things are squared away, if it's going to be hot, cold, dry, wet, whatever it may be. So Dark Sky is something that we recommend, and you can probably find some other free things, but Dark Sky seems to be pretty accurate, which allows you to pack properly for any type of weather permitting games. So definitely check that out. When it comes to weather, once again, make sure your gear is properly rated. If it's cold, make sure you have a sleeping bag that is rated to a specific temperature. If not, it's gonna feel like you're sleeping in some tin foil. It's gonna make you colder. So definitely check out the weather ratings on your gear that you do actually purchase or already own. We get this question all the time. What is the most important thing to pack? Socks. No matter what, there's tons of socks that you can bring. There's wool line socks, there's athletic socks, there's wicking socks, whatever. Just bring socks. You're gonna want socks. You're probably gonna change 3 or 4. So I personally bring like 5 pairs of socks. In the actual packing video, I show you how I keep those socks separated, dry, and in an organized area, because they kind of seem to get everywhere if they're not in a consolidated area. So socks, hands down, in my opinion, the most important thing to bring when you're doing a 40, 30, 24-hour Milsim event. What kind of food should I pack? That comes up all the time. MREs, a jet boil, water, Cliff Bars, some of those things from Walmart where you can just add the hot water by using your jet boil. Those are all really good things, as well as some beef jerky, M&Ms, stuff like that. Bring whatever you want. You just need to have enough food to sustain yourself for the entire event. Typically, you make friends or you go with a group, there's enough food to go around. But once again, you shouldn't be packing, a full sub sandwich or anything crazy. Just bring what's gonna sustain you. And once again, get ready to rough it up a little bit. So now that we've covered, obviously, most of the packing questions, and once again, if you have any additional questions, leave it in the comments. We're more than happy to answer them and make sure you guys feel as prepared as possible. But let's dive into the actual gameplay itself by starting with factions. In our events, we do have multiple different factions. The 2 main ones are the IGC, which is the military faction, and we have the CFI, which I guess you could consider as the rebels or the radical people. On top of that, we do have tons of other factions which are going to be introduced over time depending on the story. We have things like the Crypto Kings going into Captivus, as well as Fascist Group, and then we're also going to have larger organizations that are going to be factions as well, that down the road you may or may not be able to play as. So obviously, based off the storyline, more factions will be introduced. Since we're on the topic of factions, let's talk about uniform restrictions, which I would say is probably the second most common question that we do get, is what can I wear? What are we going to be doing? Where are we going to be going? What are we supposed to look like? We have some great stuff in the rule set that you can see, but based off what I told you with IGC being military and CFI being the rebels, you should understand that CFI being rebels typically are civilians, and IGC is what you think it is. It's a military faction, so they're supposed to look uniform, they're supposed to have combat apparel, things like that. Uniform restrictions are super important for us, and they need to be taken seriously, and there's not much of a gray area. It's something that you have to be able to differentiate on the field. So when it comes down to your uniform restrictions specifically, look at the rule set that we have provided to you so you can understand what each faction will look like. You know, we don't use tape on arms, we don't do anything like that. And sometimes there's certain factions like fascist groups, Crypto Kings, and CFI, which technically are all civilians. They are supposed to blend together to allow for a little bit more confusion or a little bit of a actual military simulation or some type of insurgency. So definitely pay attention to the factions, pay attention to their uniform restrictions because they're super important to us. In the rule set on our website, you can find more details, but for example, the safest bet for IGC is typically multicam, military tops and bottoms, combat tops and bottoms. You're supposed to look like a soldier. Pretty simple. For the factions like the Crypto Kings, CFI, fascist group, you want to look a bit more ragtag. M81 is the only authorized camo, and it can only be pants or a fatigue type top. There's no combat tops that are allowed if you're playing in a civilian faction like fascist group or the Crypto Kings or CFI. Technically, all of these factions are civilians. Some are gangs, some are rebel groups. So you should not have access to multicam, high quality military clothing or gear. You're supposed to look a little bit run down, kind of like you scavenged to get your gear put together. We encourage these non-military factions to really grunge up their gears, put some duct tape on it or some zip ties and make it look kind of unique and cool. But you do want to be able to differentiate, obviously, a civilian faction like the Rebels or the Crypto Kings or a fascist group from someone like the military faction like the IGC, because once again, we don't have any name tapes, arm tapes or anything like that. So it's definitely important that you obviously look different and you blend in with other civilian factions. So pay attention to that, pay attention to the rule set, because we do have a nice table in there which shows what is and what is not permitted based off the factions. IGC being the military faction, pretty self-explanatory when it comes down to what you can wear. Military top, military bottoms, looking uniform like a soldier. We strongly encourage these non-military factions to look into things like 511, non-camo pants, M81 pants, hoodies, light sweatshirts, flannels, t-shirts, whatever, something a civilian would most likely wear. The only exception is that you can wear M81 woodland camouflage. Civilian garb, that's the best way to put it. So just obviously civvy it up and you should be good to go. Try not to look like you belong to a military. That's as simple as it can go. You are in a militia. Now, when it comes down to CFI, Crypto Kings, the fascist groups, and other future factions that will be technically civilian factions, you are more of that militia or gang style. So you're not going to want to look military. You're going to want to look more militia, more grunged up, beat up type of situation like I just mentioned. But you want to have things like light sweatshirts, flannels, t-shirts, hoodies. M81 pants are most common when it comes down to that, or 511 tactical pants. But nothing too tactical. Just try to do it. A lot of people wear jeans. That's awesome. So definitely go for it there. One big thing, no matter what faction you're on, no all black clothing. No black pants and black combat tops, or black pants and black tops. Not anybody can use that. That is specifically for a certain player group that is a essentially faction within the faction of the IGC. So all black, completely out of the equation for now. So now that we touched on packing and things like that, let's actually go into the camping and fob situation. The fob for each faction plays a very important role in our events. Every faction will have a designated fob, but it doesn't mean you will always be there. That is where you will definitely be at some point, but sometimes you will be stationed at checkpoints, or you're going to be at CCPs, or whatever it may be. but you're going to be spread out to ensure that you hold territory, and obviously for strategic purposes you may be asked to pack up your stuff from the fob if that's where you're originally stationed and relocate. So yes, you will have a fob where obviously missions will be handed out. That's where most of your people will be majority of the time, but it doesn't mean you're always going to be there. So once again, back to the packing: pack light, pack smart. You might be asked to pick your stuff up and relocate for a strategic maneuver. Let's talk about hands down the most important thing. You can buy your tickets, you can pack the way you want, you can do all those things, but the most important thing is the spirit of the game. We hear time and time again that there is a harsh and unfriendly response in airsoft at times, and that's something that we will have nothing to do with. We are a family. We want to build a community. We want to build a completely unique culture within airsoft at our Milsim events, and we want everybody to be able to be a part of it and just spread positivity and have a great time. We do this as a hobby, but for the spirit of the game, unfortunately, we will ban people that act against our code of conduct. We take it very seriously, and you can find obviously the ban hammer in our rule set and in other places as well. Some rules of thumb that we want to cover when it goes to the spirit of the game, or even pre-planning in the faction pages: be nice to people, answer questions with a purpose, and do it kindly. A lot of people are doing this for the first time, so obviously treat them with respect, because you probably would like to be treated with respect the first time that you obviously were looking for answers in regards to something as intense as a 40-hour military simulation game. So please be respectful of others and help out. If you have nothing nice to say, just don't say it. One thing I want you to remember is that especially staff are playing characters. So don't be offended if the rebel militia leader isn't all warm and fuzzy and wants to help you out. They're playing a character, they're playing a role. We get very invested because it makes it more fun for us. But we will work out some type of code word for each and every event where you can say this word and you can step away if you have to. We don't want to use it, but just know that the rebel militia leader or the military CO isn't necessarily being a dick. He's just playing a character. We want you guys to have fun. I feel like when everybody plays that role and really gets into that character and they really LARP it up, it's definitely making it a more enjoyable experience. So don't be super offended if somebody says something or yells to, flank left. That's not what we're trying to do. Just enjoy it. Know that they're playing characters. We're all playing characters, and just have fun with it. But obviously continue to show respect, and if something needs to be said, kindly pull someone to the side and just kind of share your obvious maybe discrepancy or whatever it may be. But just be kind to each other and know that people are playing roles, so don't take them super seriously, even if they seem like they're being really serious. Another huge thing when it comes to spirit of the game is not breaking immersion. Everybody makes fun of this immersion shit. It's fine, make fun of it, but when you break immersion, it does ruin it for other people, not just for yourself. Do not call a ceasefire if you are only pinned down. A ceasefire is an emergency call. You only call a ceasefire. This is something that can get you banned. If you call a ceasefire for a non-life-threatening injury or body injury, we can ban you for that. It literally brings the event to a halt, and it's sometimes really hard to be able to kind of pick the event back up and get on the same pace it was when you have to stop everything for 15-20 minutes just because you were getting peppered a little bit more than you'd like. So don't call a ceasefire, don't break immersion. Another thing when it comes down to actually showing up to the event, please do your best to show up on time. We will obviously make accommodations if we have to, but being late is something that can be detrimental to the event. Missing briefings is a liability for the player that's showing up late, as well for the players that have been briefed already. So any latecomers, just hit us up before, tell us that you're going to be late, but we try to give you plenty of time to show up, and obviously make that not really an issue. But if you are going to be late, let us know, but do your best to not be late, because it does kind of obviously ruin the beginning of the experience, not only for other people, but it can ruin it for you. You're gonna miss out on some critical things that are really cool, really fun, but you don't wanna miss the briefing. Just be on time. If you're not early, you're late. When it comes down to the spirit of the game, once again, watch the video on the rule set. It covers everything, but most specifically, learn the medic rules. Do not skim past them. Watch the video and look at the rule set that we have written out for you. One thing that we did differently compared to a lot of other producers is we have a different way of running things in regards to the hit rules and medic rules. So some things that we can touch on: if you are hit anywhere for the first time, you are wounded. In a wounded state, you are able to continue to fire, but you have to act out that wound first. You get hit in the arm, you go down, you get hit in the leg, go down. You can crawl, you can do whatever you have to, crawl to cover, fire back. If you get shot again, you go into critical, which you can be brought back only from something called a Metagel pack, or if you have it, a adrenaline shot. If you get hit in the head at any time, you automatically skip all of that, you go to critical. If you are picked back up out of a wounded state and you are hit again, you are now in critical once again, and you can go back to it. So it's a lot of stuff right there in a short amount of time, and I really suggest learning the medic rules and just completely ironing out any questions you have in regards to the medic rules, because a lot of people don't read them thoroughly and they think it's just like every other event, when it's definitely not. But that's pretty much it, guys. That really is just kind of what I wanted to share with everybody. It's the most commonly asked questions, and we want to make sure that you guys don't have questions when you show up. You just are prepared and you're excited and you're ready to jump into this universe that we've created within the Soul Wars event series. So thank you so much. Please check out our sponsors, give this video a like, subscribe to us, turn on the post notifications on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We really want to obviously continue to grow and show you guys what we have in store for you. So thank you again. I'm signing out. Have a good one.